Hello and welcome back everybody to the Foodbuild factory, where today we're going to take a look at Vaultboy. That's the guy you can see on screen right now. And as always, I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first part of the video, and in the latter part of the video we're going to take a closer look at the perks, the mutations and everything you need to know in order to get the build right. Now, what this is going to be about is, honestly, it's pretty straightforward heavy gunner. There's no like particular twists or anything to it. So we do have some nice synergies when it comes to our defensive, but most importantly we're using a vampire's flamer, which in and of itself makes us pretty much immortal in most of the situations. So the high fire rate combined with the vampire's effect makes it so that we get healing going on whenever we're firing at enemies, and to be honest, that's going to be more than enough in most cases in order to keep us alive. But still, since we are in power armor, we do have some nice survivability, and we even use quite a lot of perks and a nice little synergy between the power armor mod we're using combined with the dodgy mod, the dodgy perk. So overall, this guy, if there's one thing we can say about him, is you're probably never going to need a stim pack, so that's pretty much a given. And what this build is mostly about is I actually want to take the chance in order to show off the capability of the flamer. In my opinion, a very underrated weapon, and that's for a good reason, because to be honest, when the game launched, the flamer was just outright unusable. Now, the first big problem you encounter with the flamer is its ammo. Like, flamer fuel is hard to come by to normal gameplay, which is fairly enough a thing for pretty much every weapon in this game. But when it comes to crafting, yeah, the amount of flamer fuel you can craft is pretty much a joke. Now, when the game launched, you were able to craft, I think, about 20 with all the respective perks, 20 flamer fuel, which you run through in, well, a second, maybe 2 seconds when firing. So it was just a mess. And also you're using kinda rare materials like acid and oil, so yeah, it was just pretty much unbearable in order to keep up with ammo. So another big problem was its condition. Like, when the game launched and you fired this thing for maybe 2 full magazines, meaning 200 to 400 shots, this thing was done with its condition. Now, just in order to give you a little example here, that's our condition. We're going to take a look at it at the end of the video. Now, the condition still is a bit problematic on this weapon, but it's nowadays it works well enough, so with the right perks investments you can definitely use this thing without having to repair it every 20 minutes. So that's a nice thing. In terms of ammo, what changed is that nowadays you can, first and foremost, you have access to better perks. So with the addition of ammo factory and everything, you can really craft quite a good amount of flamer fuel. In addition to that, you nowadays have daily ops, which is, by the way, a situation where this character is pretty good at. And yeah, enemies in daily ops tend to drop quite a lot of flamer fuel, so you can use or farm daily ops in order to regain your ammo. And in addition to that, yeah, at some point Bethesda did increase the yield you get from crafting flamer fuel. However, yeah, that was one of the situations where they pretended to fix something, but yeah, no one can reasonably tell me that they looked into it, because what they did is they changed what you get from, as I said, about 20 to, was it 30 maybe? So it was kind of a joke, honestly. It was not usable still, but they increased the condition of the weapon a little bit. So overall there was quite a lot of balancing with this weapon, which isn't something you typically see in this game. Like, there's a ton of weapons that have certain trouble from the beginning of the launch up to this date, and that were never even mentioned or anything. However, with the flamer, for some reason, this thing was rebalanced quite a lot. Now, You could argue that the job they done wasn't all that great, but at least there was something done. Now, one thing this weapon was always good at, and still is damage. As you can see here, I already mentioned we're using a vampire's flamer, which means we have no damage increase from any mutations. So this is pretty much base damage, and even less. I'm going to talk about that soon. And yeah, we're melting everything. Now, honestly, we did go against pretty squishy targets so far, but you will see when we're going against super mutants, yeah, damage is not a problem with this weapon, like, at all. By the way, in terms of ammo, you're still running through a lot of it, and yeah, you should definitely be aware that you have to grind a little. You should have access to a character with ammo factory and all of that nonsense, but yeah, it's definitely a manageable ammo consumption nowadays. So I did mention that we're even having less than base damage, and what I mean by that is that, yeah, if you're going through the modifications for this weapon, you do have different nozzles. So those are the attachments that change the damage on this weapon, what usually the receivers do, but on this occasion it's the nozzles. And you do have the so-called vaporization nozzle, which has the highest amount of damage, and we are just using the standard nozzle. Now, that's because there was another bug. I think it's kind of fixed, but still not completely fixed. So what I'm talking about here is that if you attach the highest damage nozzle, which does, I think it's twice the amount of damage that we're doing with this nozzle here, which is the standard one, then your range is significantly lowered. And for the longest time it was bugged so that it actually didn't have any range at all. Like, you really had to be in melee range in order to hit enemies, which was kind of frustrating. And I mean, don't get me wrong, you can get away with it, especially with this here build and weapon, because you can tank the damage and you want to get close anyways. However, this here wouldn't have been possible. You really have to wait till they hit you. So that just kind of felt odd, and I do want to have this at least a bit of range. You know, it's especially when you're going against like turrets on walls or something, or sometimes you just want to shoot someone over a catwalk or anything. And in those situations it's really frustrating to have that nozzle that doesn't really help. Now, there's a workaround to it. Like, the first time you attach the nozzle, it does work until you leave the server. So every time you enter the server, you could have crafted another mod for it and then reattached the vaporization nozzle, and it would have been usable. However, it's a kind of tedious workaround, to be honest. Even if you're not one of those people who switches servers a lot, it's no fun at all. So I decided not to do that, and to be honest, it's not like we're using out on so much damage. We're doing very well. It's not a problem at all. And yeah, as I said, I just want to have this little bit of range. It makes the weapon way more enjoyable to use, if I can say that. Now, there's a lot of legendary effects that work very well with this weapon. Like Furious, for example, would work kinda well, but yeah, you have a tendency to hit other enemies as well, so it's not the best. But anti-armor, for example, works very well. Junkies, bloodied, you get the point. Now, I wouldn't stick to any VATS perks, to be honest. Another thing I mentioned in another video at one point is that one thing you can do with this weapon, surprisingly, is it's completely silent. So you could potentially make a stealth character, a stealth heavy gunner that uses it, which is kind of hilarious, because obviously, I mean, it shouldn't be something you can stealth with. I mean, it's not loud. I mean, I guess in all reality it is very loud, but yeah, in terms of sound, it doesn't feel like you couldn't use it in stealth. But yeah, by the way, I'm sorry, my gameplay is a bit rough today. The PlayStation runs for quite some time now, but yeah, well, back to the topic. Yeah, you could use it in stealth, however, I don't really feel like that makes sense, but anyways. We're now going to fast travel to Huntersville and kill some super mutants. And by the way, I can give you a little count. As soon as we're arriving, I will take a look at my ammo. I was starting with 8088 flamer fuel, if I recall correctly, at least very near to 8000. And yeah, another thing I wanted to mention, I mentioned a nice little synergy between a torso mod for our power armor and a perk. What we're doing here is we're using the kinetic dynamo. I think that's how it's called. It's basically a torso mod that restores AP when you're getting hit. Now, this isn't the best modification you can put on your torso. Pretty straightforward, it just isn't. But what it's good at is I'm using it in combination with Dodgy, and Dodgy is a perk that reduces your damage taken by, I think, 40% for the cost of AP. So as long as you're having AP, you can reduce your damage by quite a lot. Now, this synergizes quite well with our torso modification, because in situations where we're getting damage that we want to reduce and therefore getting our AP reduced, we also regenerate AP, so that works kind of well. I still wouldn't recommend this combination on any build that uses AP, for example a melee build, or if you want to do a VETS heavy gunner or power armor character. But since we are using free aim and don't use sprinting a lot or power attacks, yeah, we basically don't need AP when we're in the fight. Which is always a nice thing. I do like that about heavy gunners. It makes the whole process a bit more simple. You don't have to watch your AP while fighting, and yeah. However, this allows us to use this combination, which works kind of well. I mean, not like we're needing it. We are very tanky, anyways, and yeah, the Vampire's Flamer, as I said in the beginning of the video, makes us basically immortal. But yeah, it's overall a nice synergy. Now, also what this build is capable of, I'm not showing that off at the moment, is that we have Friendly Fire, rank 3 active. That perk makes it so that you can heal your teammates when you're shooting them. So as long as you're shooting your teammates with your flames, you're gonna regenerate health for them, which a pretty nice combination. For example, is if you have a teammate that's a bloodied melee character or unarmed character, those guys can be very tanky. However, combine that with this here build, like your buddy with the bloody build goes against a Mylar Queen or something, and you're shooting it as well, making sure to hit him. Yeah, he's going to be even more tanky, which is a nice synergy. Something you don't really see all that often. But another situation where it's probably a bit more useful even would be if you say there are certain events in the game where you have to keep NPCs alive. Now, a good example is Fastnacht. If it comes up, you want to keep your robots alive, and you can use the Friendly Fire perk in order to do that. Now, there's a little twist to it, because for some reason, by the way, other mentions would be the Brahmins at free range, or at the Caravan. I'm not sure how it's called. Yeah, the Caravan event. The thing is, you have to keep in mind that with those NPCs in the game, if you want to keep them alive, you have to bash them. Like, for some reason the shooting doesn't work on those guys, but if you bash them with your weapon, you can regenerate health. It's a bit of a tedious process, but most of the time in these events you do have time spans between attack waves where you can easily just bash the Brahmin or robots or whatever and get them some health back. It's nice, and I can imagine, yeah, if you're at an event and do that, people will be thankful. Can really make a difference in the long term, but yeah, that's just something we can do. We don't use anything like Lone Wanderer or something, because yeah, as I said, we don't really need AP all that much. And Also, the tankiness is kind of overkill. I mean, there's a lot of perks we do have that would be overkill in that term, but yeah, I felt like we can definitely live without Lone Wanderer for once. What a nice surprise, right? And yeah, as you can see here, I didn't really talk about the gameplay for the last few minutes, but yeah, as you can see, we're not having any trouble. We can burn through enemies easily. Now, our condition is slightly less than half of the weapon, and we burn through about 900 shots. So as you can see, yeah, the weapon is hungry and degrades relatively fast. However, it's all in a manageable realm. Now on this occasion we do have a legendary here. We're not quite capable of out damaging him, so what I'm doing here was very stupid, to be honest, but who cares. Now we're just going to kill those guys here in the front yard, and once we're done we're going to take a look at our perks and everything. I already talked a bit about the weapon, the equipment, but yeah, we're going to take a look at those two. Another legendary here. Alright, now we have suiciders. Now there's this guy. But as you can see here, even though we're in the middle of high-level super mutants who are shooting us, yeah, our health never goes down, which is... I mean, it's something you don't really appreciate anymore after playing with such a tanky character for a while. But yeah, not having to worry at all about health is a really refreshing experience, say that. I mean, there's tons of tanky enemies, tanky builds you can come up with where you don't really have to worry about your health, but yeah, this one here is especially hard. By the way, the drop here is actually pretty powerful. It's a shame that for some reason I don't like the death tempo, like I never did. Even though it's not actually bad or something, it's generally quite good. I just didn't enjoy using it for the most part. And well, still, bloody power attack, nice combination here. Won't say no to that. If someone needs it, just tell me, because honestly I'm not going to bother using it. And yeah, we're kind of done here. So another thing you can do, by the way, is you can add Molotovs to your arsenal, just to give you a bit more of this pyromaniac feeling, but they don't do a lot of damage. What they do is they will heal you as well, since your grenades and throwables do benefit from your vampire's effect on the weapon. But yeah, you don't really need them. No situation I can think of. But overall, I do quite like how the character turned out in terms of aesthetic. All this blue armor and the yellow from, well, blonde, I'd say, from our helmet synergizes quite well with the yellow pieces on our flamer here. But overall, yeah, it's just a Vaultboy, to be honest. Like, not the Vaultboy you're expecting to, but a Vaultboy in power armor. Now, let's get into it. Let's start off with our mutations here. We do have red worms, but that's nothing important. We do have bird bones, carnivore, eagle eyes, marsupial, speed demon, talons, and twisted muscles. Now, first and foremost, there's a lot here that we don't need. Talons and twisted muscles is completely irrelevant. We do have less gun accuracy from twisted muscles. However, that's not really... Yeah, even though it's 50%, we don't really recognize that while playing with the flamer. Doesn't make a huge difference. If you wanna throw in other weapons, like for example a 50 cal or something, which I highly advise you to in order to spare some ammo, you definitely don't want that, but yeah, you don't want that anyways. The important thing here is speed demon, marsupial, and bird bones. Like, there's not a lot you need here, honestly. Marsupial and speed demon, just for faster reload, faster movement speed, getting around easier, getting around rocky terrain, jumping higher, pretty straightforward. And bird bones, another one you don't really need. I just feel like on power armor characters, bird bones isn't as much as... It's not like you need it. However, you really grow into it once you lose it, because if you're having marsupial on, like every second time you're jumping or and landing, you do this power armor landing, which just staggers you in a way. It triggers this little animation, and yeah, it's basically just tedious. And with bird bones that doesn't happen all that much, and therefore I just advise you to use it on every power armor character, as long as you don't be melee and can handle the negative to strength or something. Carnivore, not really necessary. Eagle Eyes, not necessary at all. We're never using that, so that's just there. Yeah, we do have strength debuffs, however they don't do a lot in terms of damage or anything. Obviously, if you want to use the make this character up from scratch, you don't want a strength debuff for basically no reason. But yeah, as I said here, Marsupial, Speed Demon and Bird Bones is the combination I would go for here. If you're going in a team, I would say use Empath. You can really live with the negatives from it, and you can be a great help to your team, but that's about it. Now, in terms of equipment, this is our Flamer here, Vampire's faster fire rate. As you see, condition is pretty much down. However, keep in mind we do have lucky breaks, so this will still last for a few minutes, so it's not like we're breaking in the next few seconds. So yeah, it's definitely manageable. It's one of those where you characters where you do have to repair your weapon regularly, but it's not as big of a deal as one might think. By the way, we're at 105 fire damage here. Yeah, if you have the vaporization nozzle, you'd be at 200. So if you look at it, it really feels like you shouldn't do that. But yeah, I tested both and I just felt like, yeah, obviously you see the damage difference, you definitely notice it. However, I felt like using the weapon with the standard nozzle is definitively the better option here. Like, it just feels more smooth and more usable, and pretty much, yeah, I enjoy the weapon more with this one. However, that's something you just have to tinker with. If you can live with the range penalty from the vaporization nozzle, go for it. Double damage, you won't say no to that. In terms of apparel here, pretty straightforward. We have a full T51 set. Most pieces aren't modded. The only thing we do have modded here is our torso with the kinetic dynamo, which I told you about earlier. It refreshes AP when we are getting hit. And we do have the sensor array on our helmet, which gives us two extra perception. Yeah, we don't need that, so go for whatever you like here. But there's nothing I would recommend that you particularly need. Best option would probably be the one that increases your intelligence. So that's about it in terms of equipment, and now let's take a look at the perks. We do have 14 strength here, Traveling Pharmacy, Master Heavy Gunner, Expert Heavy Gunner and Bandolier. Now straightforward, the Heavy Gunner perks you want. Traveling Pharmacy you wouldn't need, because honestly you don't need any stim packs or something. I just happen to have a lot on my character because I'm switching it constantly. But with this character here, I definitely go for something like Bare Arms, Lock and Load, even Bullet Shield maybe to get you that little bit extra damage resistance. But yeah, I mean, you can also go for Traveling Pharmacy, but it's not necessary. So yeah, I'd say Lock and Load would probably be your best option, or Bare Arms. And Bandolier here, I did put it on because I'm feeling like if you want to run this character for a longer while, you definitely want to have a sidearm, something like a good minigun, or maybe the Final Word from Beckett, because you can actually just use every heavy weapon. Like, this is a straight heavy weapons character. So yeah, having a good side option would be nice. And yeah, if you have a heavy weapon that uses ballistic ammo, you want to carry a lot of ammo, so therefore I put it on here, even though we carry no ballistic ammo at the moment. But I felt like, yeah, if you want to run this for a longer while, you probably want to have Bandolier on here. Otherwise, yeah, feel free to use another perk like Blocker maybe, or yeah, another carry weight perk. Do whatever you like here, up to your choice. In terms of perception, we do have rank 3 and we do use it for glow sight. There's nothing we particularly need here. You could happily go down to perception 1 and use 1 rank of glow sight or whatever, since, as I said, nothing you need here. I just happen to have some perception. I think it's even from a legendary perk, so I used glow sight here gives us a little edge when we're in a nuke zone, or when we are dealing with a glowing ghoul outside of a nuke zone. Maybe we are a radiation rumble, so it's nice to have, but nothing necessary. Onto endurance, the one thing you do want to have here is probably fireproof. I mean, you can definitely survive most explosions even without it. However, yeah, you want to be this tanky guy, and a bit more tankiness when it comes to fireproof to explosions is nice to have. And Cola Nut I just threw in here because I didn't have another option that I really wanted here. Nothing felt really necessary, and I feel like if you're going for this iconic Vaultboy character, yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I mean, the Nuka-Cola doesn't have a connection to the Vault-Tec at all, but yeah, I feel like Vaultboy would be addicted to Nuka-Cola. Simple as that. Also makes for a good healing item, or AP refresh. Both you don't really need, but if shit really hits the fan, you can use it. Then onto charisma, we're at straight 4 here, which usually I use for Lone Wanderer, but on this occasion I thought like, yeah, we could do more, we could use Tenderizer here or something, but I didn't really feel like it was necessary, and therefore I left it at rank 4 in order to use Friendly Fire, which, as I said, I didn't show off in the video, but since you're going for a weapon that uses flames for once, you might as well use this perk. Simple as that. It's a perk which I always liked from the idea, but never really worked with, since the conditions are pretty set. I mean, the perk would be way better if it actually worked on every weapon that uses fire damage. For example, you do have laser weaponry that adds burn damage, you do have burning attachments and mods for multiple different melee weapons, but for some reason, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only weapons that work with friendly fire are actually the flamer and the shish kebab, which is a bit of a shame, honestly, and it's very unintuitive, but that's just how it is. So, well, anyways, we do have friendly fire, you can use it if you want, and you should definitely run in a team. For the same reason I do have strange in numbers, positive mutation effects are stronger. Like, it's not like we, as I said, particularly need something here, but a bit more jump height and lower fall damage is nice to have. There's nothing wrong with it. Another good pick would be, since this is a character that really works well in a team, the mutation that gives you more special when you are in a team or nearby a team. Even if you're not nearby a team, you're not really needing any passive benefit from your stats here. Like, for once, you don't need a lot of action points, you don't need a lot of strength. Yeah, there's nothing you particularly need, so yeah, it would just be a nice buff to your intelligence for leveling and such, but that's about it. Onto intelligence, we are at 10 here. Stabilized and batteries included, definitely must-haves here. Stabilized just flat out increases your damage output since you ignore more armor, and batteries included, yeah, I mean, in power armor it's probably never a bad choice to have batteries included, simply because you carry those fusion cores, which are quite heavy. But in addition to that, yeah, flamer fuel can add up pretty quickly, so having batteries included makes it very manageable. And last but not least, we do have rank 4 of gunsmith. Now, ideally, if you can make room for it, have intelligence 11, obviously go for gunsmith 5, but you definitely want gunsmith simply to reduce your condition degradation. Simple as that. Also, this gives us a nice high 10 intelligence, which is kind of nice. So, onto agility. We're not using agility all that much, but it's still fairly high at 12. We do use Action Boy, Through Hiker, Adrenaline at 5, and Dodgy. Now, the important perks here are Adrenaline, Dodgy, and Action Boy. Now, Dodgy I already explained. If we are getting hit, we do regenerate AP, and with this AP we can avoid damage. So this is a nice synergy. For the same reason we do have Action Boy, since when we're getting out of a fight, we're basically always done with AP. And usually when I'm done with the fight, I want to sprint to the next location and be on the move. And it's kind of frustrating if you're always having to wait for your AP to refresh, and it just doesn't refresh all that fast. So having Action Boy here is a good idea, since we don't have any other benefits that let us refresh action points all that fast. therefore it's nice. Adrenaline, plain and simple, more damage going on. This build shines when it comes to crowd control, so we often find ourselves in situations where we're fighting a lot of enemies, and in general adrenaline is never a bad pick if you have the points for it. It's one of the must-have perks on pretty much every build if you can afford it. And through hiker, plain and simple, it's a convenience perk. If you don't need it, use something else, whatever you like. There's not a lot of you need. You can actually get away with less agility, but you see we're boosting quite a lot of perks, or quite some perks, with our legendary perks, so this would be a nice pick. If you can't afford the build like it is, then ditch out 3 points of agility, make it agility 9, and don't use through hiker. It's not that necessary, it's just a convenience perk here. And onto luck, we do have one gun army, luck of the draw, and starch jeans. One gun army, pretty simple when we're fighting tougher enemies like let's say Myler Kreen or something. It's really nice to have this staggering effect, but on top of that the cripple effect. Now, crippling limbs is incredibly powerful, and with such a fast firing weapon it works very well. Just focus on the legs and you're done pretty easily. Your enemy is immobilized. Sadly, you can't really use it for scorched beasts since they are out of range. Usually if you have crippling ability, you target their limbs and they have to land. But yeah, that's just not really possible with this weapon since the range is too short. And luck of the draw, it just helps more with keeping our weapon going. As I said, condition, while it's manageable, you do have invest into it, and therefore luck of the draw is a nice pick. Also makes it easy if you carry a secondary weapon, like I said, a 50 cal or something. The combination of gunsmith and luck of the draw makes most heavy weapons that you carry degrade so slow that you never really have to bother about with it. So that's a nice thing to have. And star sheens, pretty self-explanatory. We want to keep our mutations and don't get any new ones. And onto legendary perks. We do have 2 slots that are not filled here. We do have hack and slash, which we don't use, exploding palm. The only 2 ones that are really mandatory here are electric absorption and taking one for the team. Both are nice. Like, taking one for the team obviously is nice if you're on a team, but otherwise not. Electric absorption, very nice indeed. Explosive palm and hack and slash I just do have on here. Like, what you could use, you could really go down and double down on survivability, adding funky dots and sizzling style here. Power sprinter could be a nice idea. Power armor reboot, well, you are in power armor, but to be honest, you don't die, so that won't be a problem here. And yeah, water rats, I mean, it could be convenient, however, is it necessary? Like, the only thing that I would do here is increase our special points. However, yeah, nothing we desperately need at the moment. Yeah, ammo factory, that's one I would recommend if you don't have it on another character. For now, what we're going to do here is we're just adding some perks here. Let's see, yeah, go for intelligence here, and we can slightly modify it using gunsmith rank 5 here. And what else did we do? Yeah, since we don't use bandolier at the moment, use spare arms. Blocker, not really necessary, or, well, let's go for lock and load. That's about it. Another thing you could throw in here would be pain train. It just gives you another little damage boost which you can use against lower enemies, but yeah, that's about it. As I said, nothing really special about this build. I just wanted to show it off mainly in order to give you a little sense of what the flamer is capable. So view this one here more as a little weapon showcase for once. But overall, I do like the appearance of the character. I do like how it turned out, and don't worry, there will be more interesting builds in the future. So in the meantime, have fun guys, and have a nice one. See you next time. Bye.